Welcome back, and thank you for being with us this morning. Every day now, it seems that we're just, every time you listen to the news, it's either banditry or kidnappings. The news is so saddening. I know many people who have stopped listening to the news because this kind of news all the time depresses people. But that is the reality of the situation in which we find ourselves. But we're not going to throw up our arms in sheer exasperation. We need to find ways of solving this problem. And of course, like we said in our menu this morning, a major contributory factor to all of this is the inflation trend and the poverty in the land. People can't seem to find enough to do to get enough money to feed themselves. So that is now spiraling into all kinds. People who don't even intend to become antisocial have found themselves doing very antisocial things.
Interestingly, is one of the things that President also alluded to when he said it's not they are aware of the fact that it's part of the things that is fueling a crime wave, insecurity, and all of that. The question then would be, what do we need to do to stem it? It would seem or sound like it's a no-brainer. But to have taken so many years, it is a brainer.
We will find out if indeed it is a no-brainer. And we have people who are going to help us analyze that this morning. We have in the studio with us in Lagos, Mr. Seyi Adetayo, who's a security expert. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure is mine.
And joining us from Abuja, we have Mr. Olatunbosun Abolarinwa. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. And joining us virtually is Oluseun Mabogunje, Public Affairs Analyst. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Yes, let me begin with you, Mr. Adetayo. Today it is kidnapping. And of course, that trend has taken a different dimension because they're now kidnapping and killing school children. That one, for me, is a definite no-no. So kidnapping, banditry, abductions, and then in our immediate neighborhood in Lagos, the one that happens in traffic. Where do we start to begin to deal with all these issues facing us? Of course, there's also the huge issue in the northeast and northwest, and it's now moving southwards, of that big insecurity. All this facing us, what do we do? Should we just give up?
No, we can't. We can't possibly give up and hand over the society to the criminals. You see, one important factor that can guarantee a peaceful society or safe society is establishment of solid criminal justice system, and it starts with the law. In Lagos State, we have the laws, but you see, lawlessness pervades. So, which means that there is law, but there is no order, and the responsibility of every government is to establish law and order. So, our problem is not inability or the inadequacy of the laws to address this. It is the political will, or at times we have the political will, but we don't have the right people, or right people are not put in place to ensure that orderliness are established. We've seen each commissioner of police comes with his own strategy, but we know that this is not responsibility of the police alone. There are quite a lot of other departments in the state that should be responsible for creating the environment where crime will not be able to thrive. If you go to Oshodi right now as we speak now, disorderliness has returned back to Oshodi. Go look at the bridges in Lagos. There was a time that the bridges were cleared. Now we have the bridges now. They are now being occupied now. So these are creating, environment, habitats for criminals to incubate. And, and encourage those who are criminals that escape from other states into Lagos to have somewhere to stay. And as long as they have somewhere to stay, they will. Lagos will always continue to attract people. But how much has the government put in place beyond policing to ensure that other environmental issues are being addressed?
What do you think could be responsible for that erosion of order in Lagos, for instance, that you cited? I have something in my head that tells me I don't need the governor or any commissioner to be able to do the right things if there is an institution of government headed by, as you rightly noted, ministries, departments, and agencies with heads who get paid for doing their jobs. So what happens? What could be responsible for that erosion of order?
You know, I said it before. So one thing is for you to have the plans. Another thing is for you to have the right people. People who possess enough, competence to actually address this issue and also being able to work with others to get it addressed. Like I said, people will continue to move into Lagos, and it will continue to create social issues around overpopulation. Now, what has the state been able to put in place over the years? Because I know, yes, Lagos State tried to plan ahead, but if you look at what successive government in Lagos State have done, it shows that what we see is minimum. Though they are better than what we see in other states, but if you match it up with what previous governments have done, it's still like the baseline. And we need to begin to think beyond the baseline for a growing, state or environment like Lagos State. As long as we allow, we have lots of buildings that are unoccupied, abandoned, and we have laws taking care, to take care of that. Has it been enforced? The answer is no. We keep hearing about, government giving ultimatum, but no action has been taken regarding that.
Okay, but there's so much to unpack in all of these things that you have said. But we'll take it all up when we return from this break. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. So, Mr. Adetayo, well, you said quite a lot of things, but I think let's take this further. Mr. Bolaniwa, you have been, in this sector as well for quite a while, and it would seem like the issues are, how do we say this now? They seem to be undulating depending on what part of the country you find yourself at any given time. Even the president, made the allusion when, he spoke recently. So there is that issue peculiar to the Northeast, and then seems there is a completely different thing peculiar to the Northwest, and a number of other things peculiar to the Southeast, peculiar to the Southwest, and all of that. My question then is, are they different, or there is a nexus somewhere that we're not seeing?
Thanks very much for this. I want to believe that crime is crime, and it comes in its various perspective or scope. And there is only one remedy to crime. It is strategic alignment, strategic engagement, and the infusion of people that can actually solve problems rather than coming to warm the bench in any governance. So the problem, you are right in analyzing that we can allude terrorism to the Northeast, allude banditry to the Northwest, and allude herders and farmers clash and killings into the forest now. But we may be wrong. We may be totally wrong if we don't take into cognizance the fact that the type of people we put in place, the type of people we put on strategic desk to man this problem really matters. And that's why I'm going to agree with my colleague in your studio over there about the quality of brain we are putting in place to take care of the problems we're facing. Take Lagos State, for instance. Don't let us go national. Lagos State is the nation. everybody that wants to make it in Nigeria, and even as far as Republic of Benin, find their ways into Lagos. And the type of problem Lagos State alone is facing is almost equivalent to the old problem the whole country is facing, which is nothing bad. We are bound to be a problem solver. That is the essence of democracy, giving us the power to be able to solve our own problem. But unfortunately, I don't think, or should I put it this way, that the type of people we have in place handling things are not really commensurate with the type of problems that we are facing in Lagos State, in other parts of Nigeria, and that is why we seem to be going around in circles. And until we begin to look at things from this perspective, we may continue to remove our legs from one problem and deepen it inside another problem. And I think it is high time for all the strategic thinkers in governance to go back to their desk and form a kind of theater to look at things from this perspective and start looking for a solution inwardly, rather than outwardly displaying what they can do, what they are spending money on, like they have done in the past, which is not solving any problem.
Okay. Mr. Mabogunje, central to all of this is the police. They are the ones supposed to look after internal problems such as crimes and all that. Do you not believe that it is time for us to take a good look at our police? And if we need to recruit more, recruit more. If we need to devote more money into, arming them better or equipping them better, do you think it is time for us to begin to look at those options so that they can better do their jobs and better protect us?
Well, I understand that he's no longer at that meeting right now, but I think maybe it's something that Mr. Adesayo can take on.
See, I want to agree with Mr. Olatuposun, especially looking at Lagos. I think the governor of Lagos should start seeing himself beyond being a governor, like president of Lagos. Lagos economy, everything is bigger than that of Benin Republic.
So this Lagos president that you're saying doesn't have authority over the police.
I'm coming. You see, Lagos has been able to do some things. You see, kudos to Lagos. The challenges, they're enormous. And I would believe that when you look at the kind of problems you are having, you look at the illness, you look at the right kind of drug. If your headache is becoming very big, you'll not be thinking of paracetamol anymore. You have to look for bigger analgesic to be able to take care of the pain. Is that the problem with Lagos is bigger than what some countries like Benin is facing as we're speaking. So when you are appointing commissioners, don't look at them as political appointees you are appointing ministers. When you are establishing agency, you are establishing agency to take care of what the federal will not be able to take care of you. For example, look at the Neighborhood Watch. The whole essence of this Neighborhood Watch established by Lagos State is to take care of the needed intelligence at the grassroots. But this is where the problem lies. As at the time they are appointing people there, they didn't put the right peg in the right hole. Yes, okay, we have a leadership there as a retired AIG. And we need to look beyond just one man that has, say, requisite experience. He needs to work with lieutenants. When you are trying to put a structure in place for intelligence, then you need to put the right people. There are lots of people in Lagos State that are retired DSS, retired people that have worked in the police CIB, police intelligence for so many years, that are Lagosians, that are in Lagos. These are the right kind of people that you need to put there. They are the ones that will not develop the civilians that will be employed. Over the years, they will have transferred the knowledge. You have a robust, domestic intelligence network in Lagos that will complement what the police will be doing. There was a time in Lagos that the response time to crime was about 5 to 7.5 minutes. That you call the 767 and there was a response. What happened to the synergy, to what then and now, that at times you may not even get response in 1 hour or 2 hours. We've seen people robbed inside the traffic, they call it smash and grab, and then you don't see response. You see cultists breaking, throughout the whole night, ravaging communities, breaking mirrors and windshields of vehicles, and no response. Even when there is response, the response are not commensurate. You see, it is not about reacting, it's about taking care of it before or after. There are people involved in this crime. Strong and credible intelligence will provide you the personnel, the people involved. That's the way the DSS operates at the national level. They wake them up middle of the night and take them away.
I'll really come back to that because of your experience in the DSS. But let me ask Mr. Mabugujai. I understand that he has recently rejoined the meeting. Well, Mr. Mabugujai, you are a security engineer. Question that comes to my mind for you is, given all that has been said and all the challenges that seem to be intractable, so to speak, do you think we have been able to correctly diagnose the primary issues on our hands? The two gentlemen who have spoken with you, your co-panelists, have talked about the need for us to have the right pegs in the right holes. So with what we have and what we've been experiencing in recent time, do you think we've been able to adequately diagnose the issues both at the regional levels as they happen and at the national level?
Thank you very much for that question. I think it's a very critical question because security and crime are part of a holistic system, and you cannot separate what's going on all over the country, both in the economic sphere, the political sphere, the religious sphere, from the impact it has on crime and insecurity. For example, I think where we are today could have been predicted 40, 50 years ago, because the real elephant in the box for me is unemployment. If you don't create jobs for people, you are going to fuel poverty. When there's poverty, believe me, there'll be security challenges. So you cannot, whether we have a good police force, whether we have a good whatever, if the unemployment is high in the streets, criminals will be created and they will keep on being created. So we need to understand the nature of the problem to come up with the solution. Our security forces, to my mind, with all their inadequacies, are being overwhelmed by the security challenges, which are fueled by the political situation and the economic situation in the country today. So without tackling those two, we will keep raising an army of people who would, in their own quest to survive, would commit criminal acts, because the first thing a human being wants to do is survive. And if the environment is operating in makes it difficult to survive legally, they will resort to other means to survive. And everybody does that.
A quick one.
So,
just a quick one on some one. Yeah, you said something about the economic and political reasons. I think I understand the economic reasons because you talked about unemployment being a catalyst for crime. But I don't understand the political bits. Can you explain it, please?
Okay, so politically, the people must feel a sense of belonging. They must feel a sense of their interest being taken care of by those they put in power to do it. When they don't feel that, whether rightly or wrongly, once the perception is that this country doesn't care for me, then we start to have issues of political antagonism. We start to have issues of, we don't want to be part of this country. We start to have some people are being more favored than others, and it dovetails into a myriad of expressions that challenges the security of the country. So there's the need for us to have a political system that everybody feels a part of. Everybody feels my voice is being heard. Everybody feels the government cares for me. I trust my government. I trust that they will care for me. When that is missing, either in reality or by perception, you have a problem. I hope that explains it.
Yeah, but okay, go on.
Take my question, the one that I asked earlier. Let me take to Mr. Bolarinwa, since Mr. Adetayo chose to dodge it altogether. That the person or the body that has the task of looking after us internally, that major body, is the police. So is it time for us to begin to look about equipping our police better, employing more policemen, looking at their benefits so that we will get people who are actually in there to serve, not to go and do other things that we have heard about?
All right, then. I think the best way for me to answer that question is that point you are trying to raise, we've passed that point about 15 years ago when LASTMA was created in Lagos, when the Nigerian Civil Defense were created to work with police, and we employed people in there to take care of certain problems. When the LSN, or whatever we call them in Lagos, were created to help with policing. So we cannot, we've taken a lot of responsibilities away from them instead of developing them. And I think I stand to be corrected if that is the case. All the resources that we're supposed to put in policing were being taken away from them, and we are creating a sister agencies. So the question we need to ask ourselves now is that, how far and how well? Why are the Civil Defense Corps? Why are the Nigerian Road Safety? Why are the other security agencies, the youth corps, and other people we don't even know about, wearing various uniforms, carrying rifle all about the country? Why are they not being effective? Should that be because we've taken the wrong step in the first place? Should we take a reverse step and think of infusing more resources into policing rather than photocopying them and creating all these sister agencies? Yeah, we're talking about employing more policemen. I'm not really an advocate of that. Why not empower the one you have? Why not enhance the one you have on ground rather than employing more? What is the capacity of one policeman now? How many citizens is one policeman is able to take care of? And why are they not able to take care of them? And I'm going to give you one simple analysis. We have detectives, all the way from IGP monitorings to CP monitorings, and all over the places. A Nigerian policeman, a detective in Nigerian police today, what resources is available to him to do his job more effectively? He doesn't even have a budget. If your phone is stolen in Lagos and you are able to track your phone to Kano, the detective you are giving the job to, the DPO, the area commander, the CP, who wants to empower that? What is their budget? Is their budget enough to sponsor that police officer to go and recover your phone, prosecute the criminal, and ensure that a signal is sent into the public? So in order to come back to answer your question, a fundamental and strategic error has been made when we decided that the best way to police Nigeria is for us to start creating all these sister agencies.
But where I may differ with you for a little bit on that would be, on the one hand, it is the constitutional responsibility of the police, not these other agencies. Well, the argument that you're proffering, a number of people might agree with you, will agree with you actually, that maybe the police hasn't gotten as much attention as it ought to. But the fact that other agencies are created doesn't in any way remonstrate the position of the police. You would also remember that in the days of the Marwa government in Lagos, there were collaborations between the police and other agencies, and it didn't in any way impair on the functions of the police. At the time, yeah, I mean, the security challenges were there, but then there was collaboration. I thought that was the intention, given the fact that, on the one hand, just as you said, we don't have enough policemen, in operation, and consequently, the only power the state has any state in Nigeria has, will be to create these, pockets of secure and attendant security agencies like the NSCDC, in the federal one, and then the neighborhood watch that which Mr. Adetayo talked about.
All right, then let me quickly respond to that in a very, very simple way. You see, as long as the capacity of Nigerian police is what it is today, there is absolutely nothing we are doing going forward that is going to make the populace safer. Capacity building of what we have there is very, very key and very, very important to what we have. It is this. How do you expect a man that does not have the capacity, or an organization or an entity that does not have the enough capacity to do their job, to be able to collaborate effectively with all other sister agencies? Collaboration is key, but collaboration comes from the capacity you have within yourself. If the battery that is supposed to supply power to the alternator of your vehicle is weak, you see, you may be embarking on a difficult journey or a no journey at all, because the moment you switch off your engine, you start looking for a battery charger to come and help you jumpstart your vehicle. And in the case of Nigeria, that could mean anything. Armed robbers, bandits, and any other criminal could come and meet you where you are. If you leave your vehicle there, you may only come back to recover the carcass of the vehicle. So while I may want to agree with your submission to some extent, I will still want to point out that the way Nigerian police were treated, the level of attention that was given to Nigerian police, the way the federal government choose to use or treat Nigerian police is not the way of 21st century. If we continue in this way, we will continue to go in circle, and I will be sitting down here again in 5 years' time with you discussing the same problem like I did 5 years ago. So what I'm trying to say is that rather than looking outward, let us look inward and build the capacity of Nigerian police. When I say capacity, I'm not talking about infusing things into them again. If there is need for total cleansing of the system in the Nigerian police, let us look into that. If we realize that they don't have weapons, they don't have enough equipment, and we are putting money and the money is not, it's not really fit for purpose, let us look into that and get value for money. As I speak to you today,
noted.
Estates all over
Just one
Nigeria
moment.
are now begin to build a police barrack.
Well, we'll come to
Living
other.
on the
We'll come to some of these other issues that you are raising. Gentlemen, you are making a whole lot of sense in all of these conversations. But we'll take it further when we return from this break. Just stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. Let's take this conversation on stemming the crime wave to Mr. Mabogunje. You've talked about the need for us to solve the problem of crime by looking at the causes of crime. And I'm wondering, is this fact lost on the authorities? Maybe not, because the president already alluded to that in a number of times that he has spoken. So, given that that is the challenge that we have, and most people look to the federal government, what should the states be doing, and what should people be doing in the states to stem the tide?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go back to something my colleague said about the police. But rather than just focus on the police, we should look at the entire security architecture of the country. Because security is not, and I keep repeating, not just about the security agencies. There are many things that have to be in place to make the security agencies function optimally. This includes even the issues of infrastructure. The security agencies are operating in the same space as we all are, and we know the inadequacy of our infrastructure. The police need data. town planning. They need to have addresses. They need to have, they need to know where to go to when there's a problem. The judicial system, the judiciary, by delaying justice, it has an impact on crime. When you know that you go to the courts and it will take you 3, 4, 5 years to get justice, you are going to take justice into your hands. All these are areas of security. The correctional institutions, how much are they correcting? When you go into prison, when you come out, are you a better citizen or are you, more hardened? The road network, police have to move on roads. And so when we look at everything, how is the security architecture for Nigeria being planned? A lot more people than the security agencies are players in providing security. And they all have to be synchronized and they all have to collaborate. I don't see enough of that going on. I see a lot of security agencies and other government agencies that have a role to play acting in silos and not realizing that everybody needs to be on the same table to address the issues of security. So if you ask me that, what should our government be doing? I think it is important that they start to appreciate the importance of everything, of connecting all the dots that concern security. Unemployment is critical, right? Town planning is critical. And a lot of what needs to be done should have been planned ahead. Look, where we are today didn't just start today. Like I said earlier, there was a lot of gap in planning from previous years. We are suffering the consequences of lack of planning now. And so the quicker we start to plan to address the issues, because the issues won't go away. The police, the security agencies are reacting to a situation. We need to do more about preventing those situations from happening. Otherwise, no matter how well you equip them, they are going to be overwhelmed. If everybody is looking for ways of survival outside the legal remit, more crimes will be committed. How much can you equip the security agencies to cope? I'm already fearing that with banditry in the northwest, insurgency in the northeast, secessionists in the southeast, kidnappers and cattle herders and all that going on, how much more can our security agencies cope? So we really need to start looking at understanding the root cause and putting in place what needs, and everybody is a player, not just the security agencies. We can't dump the lack of planlessness of our governments over the years on just the security agencies.
Mr. Adeshayo, unemployment seems to be at the root of all this. And we can't say that that's going to go away soon.
Definitely.
And during the break, you were talking about all this going on in the country, which means that more people are going to flock into Lagos.
Definitely.
Because there's that belief that you get to Lagos, somehow you'll be able to find your way.
It's the oasis.
Yes. So what does Lagos State do about this specifically? And what do the hapless inhabitants of Lagos who are being attacked in traffic, are being attacked in the markets, who are being kidnapped, and you spoke about, during the break, about express kidnappings, what do we then do?
Okay, to start with, Nigerian law allows people to move. You can move to any part of Nigeria. But at the same time, no law gives you the power to go and to enter into a place when you don't have a right to live there, when you don't have accommodation. You can't just flock into Lagos, then occupy a space under the bridge, or occupy, an uncompleted building. Lagos State government has laws that takes care of this.
But it's not enforced.
It's not enforced. That was what I was saying before. We first of all need to start looking at enforcing law and order in Lagos State. That is one. Then two, we'll still have to come back to other parastatals or ministries that have responsibilities. Like, I want to see a situation whereby all the bridges up to Ojuelegba, I passed to Ojuelegba just 2 or 3 days ago. I was scared in the traffic there because I was just seeing all the strange faces. I was seeing that, these are potential criminals. Lagos State urban renewal, or they should start planting trees, turn under the bridges to part of the beautification of Lagos and prevents, that place from being turned into, incubating center for crimes and criminals. Then thirdly, you see, when we joined the government security agencies, there are some things that we were taught, and we saw them being done then, which has to do with surveillance, which is as an aspect of, security enforcement, where you have people in plain clothes, you have unmarked vehicles, that they were using then, to monitor crimes and trying to. All these are gone. I know the Lagos State government has been putting so much funds through Lagos Security Trust Fund into RRS and other agencies. They need to actually look into the intelligence and surveillance aspect now, to now not buying brand new, Toyota or vehicles, but to buy vehicles that are fit for purpose, that can be, that can fit the right kind of cover. And, I want to say, Sijoa, they have up to 5 to 8 vehicles driving from Lekki phase 1 roundabout all the way to Aja. All those unmarked vehicles like maybe Pencil Light, 2000 Toyota, and then you have policemen there. You see, our current strategy of putting RRS, they are doing a good job, but it will not help us, because the moment these criminals see these guys that they have occupied this area, they move away from that location on bike to another area where there are less police presence. So you continue seeing them, they'll continue to be carrying out these crimes. But when you now disguise, and then in the process of they carrying out this operation, you start picking them. By the time you call their population to have, the rest will run back out of Lagos.
There's something that you said now that I think, one should give a little more attention to, and that is talking about intelligence. Earlier you talked about you talked about credible intelligence. How actionable is that intelligence?
When intelligence is credible, it will be actionable.
Expectedly.
Yes.
Because we have had pockets of credible intelligence. I think it was, there was someone we engaged, I don't remember who, was a member of the House of Representatives, who is representing Kebbi State, and said that the hoodlums said they were going to come back twice. And they did come back. They came the first time, said they would be back, they came back, said they would be back the third time, they came back. So it is credible. Even if it's a rumor, okay, clearly it wasn't an empty boast. They came back. So it is credible. That's why I asked. Okay. What makes it credible? You see, what makes a credible information actionable?
Now, the fact that it is credible means that it is actionable. Now, do you have the capacity to action it? Maybe the issue. Okay. Now,
and whose job is it to action?
They're already overstretched. So those people saying that they will come back because they generally know that you don't have the capacity to stop them. Why? Because there are a lot of environmental, issues that are to their advantage. You are here in Birikebi, they move to another community and carry it out. As long as they strike, it's going to create embarrassment for you. Let me give you an example. 2 days ago, was it 2 days ago or yesterday, at around Shogunle, I saw the chairman of Lagos Task Force himself clearing traffic. The traffic was so much. And see, what I saw there is this. He saw the potential of these criminals, possibility of these criminals taking advantage of this traffic and start robbing people. Because they do rob people along that stretch, especially getting to under the bridge, Ikeja. So he himself was there. He was sweating under the sun, clearing this. Now, what I expect from others now is that the DPOs of each of these divisions, they know where and when their traffic used to build up in their areas. They know the time. I expect them to leave their office, call their DCOs and the DTOs, position yourself and start clearing. If you remove all the impediments that do create this traffic, you are reducing the opportunity for this crime, this crime to take place, or these criminals to, you see,
take advantage.
We're creating manure for crime.
Let me. But there are one or two things that I would like us all to also touch on before we go. Now, you have talked, in response to Alero's question about what does Lagos need to do, but I'd like you, Mr. Bolarinwa, to talk about what do we need to do to cut down that influx that Mr. Adetayo talked about. What do other states need to do to forestall that propensity for the indigents of those states to leave that state en masse and create, quote unquote, create problems for other states?
So that's a very, very important question. Let me say this to you. The type of democracy and politics we practice in Nigeria is almost similar to the type of policing they practice in the US sometimes ago. That is, if a criminal is moving away from your precincts to other precincts, it's none of your problem, it is the problem of that precinct. So if you have a way of pushing your problem to other places, so be it. So I don't really, if I want to advise other states in Nigeria to make sure that they look after their citizens, provide job and other stuff, but the freedom of movement law that we have in Nigeria will not help that. They keep saying that anybody can go anywhere, and I've seen argument between the northern state government, eastern state government, and the Lagos state government over some funny deportation that was practiced by one-time Lagos state government. I think the onus lies in Lagos to make their environment, their domain, not to be livable and comfortable for people who does not have fixed abode. Lagos State currently, if you go around from Agege to Abattoir to Abule Egba to Agbado crossing where they share a boundary with Ogun State, in the night, which I have done, you see a lot of people actually sleeping on motorcycles, sleeping along the road to make a living and to also commit crimes. Why should people that does not have fixed abode be able to live comfortable in Lagos? And Lagos State needs to create a desk or a department for this to ensure that, one, people are registered as they are coming into Lagos. Whichever way they want to do it, they need to put something in place, which is not something that I can really share here. But for people of no fixed abode to be able to flock into your state and live there free of charge, it's not good for your economy, it's not good for security, it's not even good for control of disease, because I was concerned at the beginning of the COVID outbreak that while we are being told to maintain this, do that, to avoid being infected, people who are likely to be infected are actually practicing open defecation, urination, bathing, and sleeping on our roads. This needs to be done. It's part of the capacity building Lagos State needs to look into.
One moment. Before we go, let me ask Mr. Mabogunje this same question. Because you're the one, Mr. Mabogunje, who began by talking about unemployment. Now, if we look at NBS's figures, the National Bureau of Statistics figures about unemployment, it varies from state to state. And as Mr. Adetayo said, that's probably the basis upon which Alero asked the question about people flocking from where they are to another state, example, Lagos. So what then? I mean, we know the challenge of the states' governments with controlling the police administratively, so to speak. So, but they have powers, as you said, about unemployment. At least they should be able to do something about creating an enabling environment for employment and all of that. So, in terms of reducing influx of people into states that seem to be stable and all of that, what do the other states' governments need to do to forestall creating these problems, as we kind of, inferred the other time, for other state governments?
Look, you're asking me a very difficult question. If I had the answer, I'll be ruling Nigeria. But again, it all stems from lack of planning over the years. And the problem is a systemic failure. Let's understand that. It's a systemic failure. The other issue that comes from this is population control. For many years in the past, we've been talking of population. There's a maximum number that any economy can sustain, right? And that number needs to be tax-paying for that matter, right? When you have a country where only 6% of our population are paying tax, then we need to worry, really, really worry. Because if each state had its own tax administration and was efficient about collecting taxes, you will find out that a place like Lagos, which is attractive to a lot of people from other countries, because Lagos is attractive, it's the economic center of the country. You cannot stop people looking for a means of living from coming. But if you had in place a tax system that made sure that you pay for the services you are getting, then it might be a disincentive. But much more importantly, like my colleague said, is do we even know the numbers of people coming into Lagos? Are they registered anywhere? Do we know where they stay? Do we have a database that allows us to say, to profile the kind of people coming in, where they're staying, what kind of employment opportunities they have? How can Lagos State government do any planning without having that basic data? And who is going to get the data? Is it the population council that we don't have population, we don't have census every as often as we're supposed to. So we don't even have the census figures to do the planning we need to do. Seriously, these are issues of planning, and it is systemic. We can go on and on trying to dissect the security situation, but it will all come to the system. We have to connect all the dots and see that security is actually as a consequence of poor governance and poor planning. And it won't go away until those two things are tackled clearly.
Thank you.
So
Mr.
I don't have any answers, but I think we should start with getting the data so that we can profile, so that we can plan, and putting in place effective tax system so that everybody in every state is paying something and therefore has must be employed to pay that tax.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mabogunje. I would have liked us to close with you all giving us, the people, little tips as to how we can keep ourselves secure, but we've run completely out of time. So I'd just like to thank our two security experts, Mr. Seyi Adetayo, who was with us in our studio in Lagos, Mr. Olatubosun Abolarinwa, who joined us from our studio in Abuja, as well as a security engineer, Mr. Oluseun Mabogunje, who joined us virtually. Thank you very much, gentlemen. This conversation is by no means exhausted. It goes on. Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us.